It's time to ditch the excuses. Get up, get out, and shut the f*** up. This is the Adjusting to Six Figures podcast.
All right, we got Daniel Tolson back in the house. And it sounds, just to clarify, if anybody's listening out there, this is not the second podcast we've had with Daniel. This is the first published podcast. We actually tried to do this same podcast yesterday, and it ended horribly with a technical issue. So hopefully we get some better luck this go around, or else I am going to be embarrassed, and I'll have to just fly out there to Taiwan and take out for dinner or drinks or something like that. What is everybody? We talked about for a second about you being in Taiwan yesterday. I mean, what's being from Sydney originally, right? Is it Sydney? What's like the food and beverage deal like over there? I mean, is it pretty much culturally completely different, or what's it
100%
like?
different?
Yeah.
Over the years, I've developed, we call it a Taiwan dudzi, a Taiwan belly. So my food preferences since living here since 2012 have really changed. So when I go back to Australia and we have those carb-rich diets, my belly just pops immediately and starts to swell. So here we're a small island, 377 kilometres from top to bottom. 23 million people live here, and there's a lot of agriculture. So it's really a lot of clean, fresh vegetables and only small portions of meat. So in Australia, you might have like 60 or 70% steak, and then you're going to have another 20% carbs and a little bit of vegetables, where we'll probably go 70% vegetables and then just very thinly sliced meats and tofus.
Really?
So the diet's clean, and I feel that my energy is high because it's very easy to process the foods rather than having those thick foods and it takes hours to digest.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the Australian diet's very much, those ratios very much similar to here in the States. But man, yeah, that's a lot of veggies.
Yeah, it's good. And the beautiful part is, because everything's grown here and it's not imported, the cost to eat is so low. So being an entrepreneur, I say to my wife, let's just work an extra hour a day and let's forget about shopping. Let's forget about going to the supermarket and let's just eat out. So we will eat out meals 5 to 6 days a week. And we do it because it's pre-cooked and it's like somebody cooking in your kitchen. So restaurants here are different. It's not that smart casual or fast casual that you have in the States. It's like going into somebody's house and they're cooking for you. So the food is just clean and delicious. It's communal. It's beautiful.
Wow. You know, and so I'll tell you, that's very, very interesting. And so you're enjoying it out there opposed to Australia.
I love it. 2 places in the world. I moved to the Middle East in 2007 and I flew into Dubai, and I walked out of the airport and I said, this is my belonging place. I felt really at home amongst the sand and the desert. And I called that home to 2012. When I left Dubai, and hopefully we get to talk about the story later on, I moved to Taiwan and I went, wow, this is my spiritual place. And for me, I don't understand the language. I've chosen not to learn the language, so I can walk around town, I can have the television on, and I don't understand anything. So I'm not subject to people's bullshit. I don't hear all the bullshit.
It's a great strategy.
I've got a clear state of mind, and it's bliss for me. It's beautiful.
So you still don't how long? So how long have you been there now?
Since 2012.
Since 2012.
A decade.
And you still haven't, and you still don't know. You don't know the language.
No. And the beautiful part is my kids speak perfect Chinese. For me, my daughter and my son, they call us dun dun. And dun means egg. And if you understand what an egg is, it's white on the outside and yellow on the inside.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
We look Aussie, we sound Aussie, but for them, they speak perfect Chinese. So they just translate everything for me. And so I'm very spoiled. Very spoiled.
So Taiwanese is that it's Taiwanese, right?
Taiwanese.
And that's where, so you met your wife. That was something we talked about yesterday, but didn't really get into it. So your wife, you're married now, I think you said, right?
Correct.
You met her in Taiwan after you had.
I met her in Dubai.
Oh.
So we were both working for Emirates Airline. And we just happened to be on a flight together. And the flight was going to Johannesburg in South Africa. So in Emirates Airline, it's a big team. And we used to get a special crew bus to work. Now, it happened that we were in a long-distance relationship because her house or her apartment was 800 metres away from where I lived. Now, 800 metres doesn't sound far, half a mile. But when the outside temperature is 50 degrees, that's a long-distance relationship. You can't walk 800 metres down the street in that summer. So it just happened one day that our crew bus went past her apartment, picked her up, and then I hopped on at my station. And she saw me when I got on the bus, and she went to herself, oh, not another gay cabin crew. And then that was her first impression. And then it happened that I walked in to the same briefing room as her. And she's like, oh, not a good looking gay cabin crew, another waste of a guy. And when we got on the aircraft, I made an announcement. My job on the aircraft that day was to operate the galley. And I got on the PA and I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is Daniel, your galley operator. I'll now be serving a world-class selection of hot and cold beverages. If you'd like to have a hot or cold beverage, please make a post over the PA and I'll make you a hot or cold drink. And everybody was laughing. And that was the thing that I always did. I made the crew and I took care of the crew. Yeah. And she was the only person who didn't come into the galley. And I said, hey, Taiwan, come to the galley. And she said, no. And I said, why not? She says, I don't have to. And I said, hey, you're part of the team. You got to come to the galley. She said, I don't have to do anything that I don't want to do.
Ooh.
And I went, game on. And the rest is history.
Right. So she was from Taiwan and dragged you over there then, I guess.
Well, I dragged her here because she wanted to go to it. She had two plans. She had a hamburger plan and a kangaroo plan. And I said, what's your hamburger plan? She said, I want to live in America. And I said, well, what's your kangaroo plan? She said, I want to live in Australia. And I said, well, I'm uneducated. I can't go to America. And you've just had a major accident on an aircraft. You're not going to get a job there. So let's go to Taiwan. And I got to Taiwan, but unfortunately we started a business, I lost my money, and then we activated the kangaroo plan and we moved to Australia. And after being there, for about 2 months, she said, this place is boring. And I said, I told you I don't want to live there. So I dragged her back to Taiwan and I said, let's stay here.
Yeah. You mentioned did I hear you right? She got into a airplane accident?
Correct.
Oh.
When I was with Emirates Airline, I was co-leading a team of 17,000 cabin crew. And one of my roles was peer support. So when there was an aircraft incident or an accident or a disaster, my team would get activated and we could be deployed locally in Dubai or anywhere in the world on one telephone call. And so the peer support team and the critical incident stress management team had been training for 25 years for an incident, but there had never been a major incident. So I got a call at about 4:00 one morning and the duty controller rang and said, Daniel, this is the duty controller. And I said, yes. I said, peer support call. They said, no, this is not a peer support call. There's been an accident. I said, okay. And they said, it's your fiance. They said, you need to come down to the landside hospital. So I quickly jumped in a taxi, went to the landside hospital, and there she is. She's been in an accident and she's in a cast from her ankle to her hip. Okay. And in the accident, she had fractured her kneecap. And the kneecap just kind of exploded into 5 pieces. And they wanted to do an emergency surgery on her. And they said, look, you're going to have to sign off on this. And I said, I'm not going to sign off on it until I know what you can do. And they said, we're going to take the kneecap out. I said, you can take the kneecap out? I said, I think that's a vital thing in the leg. And they go, oh, she'll be right. And in the Middle East, you're like, when somebody says you're going to take the kneecap out, you've got to question them. And I said, yeah, if she takes the kneecap out, it's going to look like she's got a bloody sausage as a leg. I said, it's not going to look right. And so I negotiated and I said, look, let's operate and do your best and we'll go from there. Anyway, that resulted in 3 surgeries over the next 2.5 years. Wow. And after 2.5 years of in and out of hospital, a really challenging time mentally and emotionally for my wife, she ended up losing her job. So she come to the end of that and she lost her job. And then because of the stress, she almost miscarried 3 times during that period. She ended up losing the job. And when you live in the Middle East, you're on a contract and your visa expires immediately. So she had to move back to Taiwan. Now, at that stage, I was co-leading a team of 17,000 cabin crew, and I'd just been promoted. I'd had this awesome job, and now I've got no holidays left because I've been caring for her for 2.5 years. And the company said, look, we know that your daughter's going to be born in December, but we can't give you any more time off. We're giving you so much time off. You're going to have to make a decision. Are you going to stay or are you going to go? And if you go, you've got to resign. So I ended up resigning from my job just to be with my wife for the birth of our daughter. Wow. And that's how I got into my entrepreneurial journey. And I thought it was going to be easy, but it was bloody hard, super hard.
It always is. Well, gosh, I mean, at least it sounds like you had a pretty good primer, I guess, before heading into it. But was she able to walk? Can she walk now?
She's good now. She left with a permanent disability. So when she walks, you can see that her leg doesn't move properly. Okay. And so it does create stress. She can never do that job again. And that had been her job since age 19. So she could never go back to that job ever again. 3 major reconstructions on the knees. And functionally, it works okay, but not the best.
All right. What happened?
But her attitude, hey, that's good. Her attitude's good.
Yeah, yeah. What happened? Was it a large airliner that went down and she was a part of the crew?
Well, coming in for landing, and something happened in the back of the aircraft and it caused her to fall. So she fell in the back of the aircraft. And there's 2 really dangerous times on the aircraft. One is takeoff and one is touchdown. They're the 2 critical phases. So the crew are always on alert at that stage. And there's an SOP, and it is called alert. And so you're always asking yourself, what's my aircraft type? Where's my location? Where's my emergency equipment? What are the risks and responsibilities, and what are the threats? And it just happened that she took a fall coming into landing. And so just minutes out from landing, she fell, which is a bad thing because what happens is you have one cabin crew to operate every door on the aircraft. And these aircrafts that we flew were worth $450 million US, and they're bigger than your typical domestic aircrafts. You know, we would have up to 420 passengers on our aircrafts. And if one door is not armed in an emergency, people can't escape from that. So the crew were then one crew down from operating emergency doors. So that's a serious event. And it just escalated from there. But ultimately, she's fine. She was taken very good care of by the company. And today, she's really turned that pain into profit. And she's really helping a lot of other women recover and come back from incidents like this. And it's not so much the physical trauma, it's the emotional trauma that takes a long time to move on from.
Right. What is she doing now?
She's also a coach.
Okay.
Very popular. She just trained 600 people here in Malaysia on the science of emotional intelligence. These people are from the insurance industry. And so she specializes in the science of emotional intelligence. And she's worked with thousands of people around the world. She's awesome. She's good.
Wow.
I'm going to retire and I'm going to carry her bags.
That's great. So I'm happy for you that everything there has gotten to a positive. So many people, I mean, just situations like that, they allow one unfortunate event to define who they are for the rest of their lives. And it's sad. So hearing her story, which I had no idea about coming into it, that's inspiring. And I know you too. My understanding is you also have had a pretty tough go at it since you were a kid. We had recently a guy by the name of Rory Douglas come on the podcast. He's a big voice in financial intelligence, financial literacy, and we connected a bit because I grew up with dyslexia. And that was, to me at that time, was normal to me. I didn't even know there was a name for it. And then when they told me that, I never really clicked with me what that was. And even to this day, I have to deal with it. And I don't talk about it because it's just kind of a normal piece of life. And he had that as well. And now he's dealing in finance, numbers, which I have the most struggle with. But my understanding is that you had more than a few illnesses, I guess you'd say, growing up. Am I right?
100%. I remember at age 11, I was diagnosed with linear sequential learning disability. And so I was having all types of problems. I could look at the blackboard in the classroom, I could look at my notebook, and I could write notes. But nothing that I saw on the board matched what I wrote in the book. And then when I'd read out what I wrote, it was all in this big jumbled mess. And I remember the kids just laughing, but it was making sense to me.
So you're saying if you're looking up at a board, like I guess maybe say, the ABCs right on the board, and you would see that, you would write that down, your ABCs, but it wouldn't be accurate.
Wouldn't go down in the right order and sequence.
Really?
It'd be all jumbled up. So the teacher thought this was a little bit strange, and then I got diagnosed with linear sequential learning disability. But the interesting thing was when they started to look at my IQ was incredibly high. It was 130 something, the IQ. So it was a high IQ, but there was this gap. And so I started to have these migraine headaches. I couldn't see properly and I couldn't hear properly. I'm trying to learn guitar. And my mum kept noticing I just kept repeating mistakes over and over and again. And it was like I was getting perfect at the mistakes. So they took me to a couple of other doctors, started to do x-rays. My spine was twisted. My hips were out of alignment. And then the platelets in the cranial were pushing down on the left and right hemispheres of the brain. And this was creating a vision impairment. So although I had perfect 20/20 vision, I had an impairment because there was so much pressure in the brain. And when the information was coming in, it was getting disrupted. So I couldn't actually process the information. Somebody could throw a ball to me and I could see the ball, but the ball might be over here and I'm trying to catch it over here. And so the eyes aren't functioning correctly. Although the vision's 20/20, they're not functioning correctly. I'm playing music. I'm learning to be a boy soprano and sing, but I'm tone deaf and I can't hear the difference in the tones. So imagine playing all the keys on the piano. Everything sounds the same. So they took me out of class and they put me in what was called the space lab. And I was really excited because I heard space lab and I thought, astronauts are smart.
Yeah.
And they put me in there. But the space lab was for the kids who were all off the fucking planet. So that's where I ended up. And I was there for 5 years, remedial therapy, come out of that. And then I contracted Epstein-Barr virus and chronic fatigue. And then I had to drop out of school. So I never finished school. And then I had 2 major knee recon surgeries back to back. And then 6 guys tried to kill me when I was about 21, 22. And I went back into hospital for another major surgery, 2 plates, 4 pins in my arm. So that first 21 years was really tough for me.
Jeez.
And so
what were you jumped? Did you get jumped by, just attacked by 6 guys?
Yeah, I said to my mates, I said, there's a party on. Let's go celebrate our mate's birthday, but I'll drive because I didn't want to drink. I wanted to go to work the next day. And we went to the party, come outside, and 6 guys jumped me. And they had a cricket set. So it's like a baseball set. And they just flogged the shit out of me. And one guy tried to hit me over the face with the baseball bat. In automatic response, you're going to put your hands up. And when the bat hit my arm, it sounded like a shotgun explosion. It was like, boom! And there's a huge noise, this crack. And everybody freaked out. These guys jumped in their car, which was a stolen car, and they took off. And I ran about a mile up the street barefoot. And then once I stopped out of fear because my feet were hurting running on the asphalt, I looked down and my arms just bent off at a right angle. And I'm like, this is not good. So the police came, they put me in the back of their paddy wagon, they dropped me off at the hospital, but there'd been a lot of accidents that night. So I sat there with my arm just flopped over for about 4 or 5 hours. And I said to my mate, I said, this is bullshit. I said, let's go home. He said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to drink. And he said, but you're not drinking. I said, I know, but I got to drink now because there's no painkillers. And then I ended up in hospital for about 3 days.
Wow. That's a story. Wow.
Beaten up, bruised up, but all part of the fun.
This episode of the Adjusting to Six Figures podcast has been brought to you by Adjuster University. If you've ever been in a car accident or a major medical procedure, then you've probably encountered a claims adjuster before, but probably never thought much of it. I know I didn't, until I found out that there was a little bit more to the job of a claims adjuster than what met my eye. Now, while there's claims adjusters that are salaried by the insurance carriers, Those insurance carriers are also supported by a team of freelancers. These freelancers act as independent contractors that help the insurance carrier facilitate their claims to keep their customers happy. These freelancers are called independent adjusters. Independent adjusters don't work for the insurance carriers, they work for themselves. That means they get to set their own schedule and decide what type of work they want to do. Best of all, independent adjusters, especially the ones that are interested in traveling across the country, can earn over $250,000 a year as an independent insurance adjuster. This is not network marketing. This is not an affiliate program. There's no pyramid involved. This is just a super niche industry that few people actually know about. And this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a get-rich over a long period of time combined with hard work and commitment. If you're looking for some easy way to make 6 figures a year or even over $250,000 a year without having to do much work or put in much effort, then this definitely isn't for you. But if you feel like you're a hard worker and you can get started running your own small business as an independent insurance adjuster, then this is the program for you. If this sounds like something that you're ready to commit to or even just learn a little bit more about, then head over to adjuster-university.com/get started to sign up to our next introductory class. Once again, that is adjuster-university.com/get started and sign up to a free introductory class so that you can learn more about this niche industry called independent insurance adjusting.
Yeah. Man, and I wanted to ask, how did you get over to Dubai? How did that? Because Dubai is one of the places I've had on my list for a little while now, and it's you go on social media. I mean, I feel like if on Instagram, you're not an influencer unless you got some videos out there in Dubai walking around. What brought you out that way?
In 2005, I was sitting on the back of my veranda in Australia, and I was drinking Jim Beam and Coke with a friend of mine, and he said to me, "Tolson." I said, "What?" He goes, "This year, let's get girlfriends." And I said, "Really?" He goes, "Let's make a pact." And I said, "Well, what's the pact?" He said, "We're going to go wherever we have to go, do whatever we have to do, and we're going to get girlfriends." I didn't want a girlfriend. And he said, "Let's just make the pact." So, you're drinking, we're actually chewing skull tobacco, having a spit on the backyard. Have you ever had that chewing tobacco before? They have it down the south. Yeah, so we were chewing tobacco. And I said, "Yeah, rightio, let's do that." And so this thought got into my mind, and then not long after, a friend rang and he said, "Hey, come on over. My brother's girlfriend's here and her sister's here as well. She's good looking." And I said, "I'll be around in a flash." And I got around there. It was 2005, and we hit it off. It was like a house on fire, and I met this girl, and she ended up being cabin crew for Emirates Airline. And she was the one who got me over to Dubai. So she was on a flight with another Aussie girl, and they said, "Hey, they're launching a business here in Abu Dhabi, and they want to teach the locals how to wakeboard." And my girlfriend at the time said, "Well, my boyfriend's an Australian champion wakeboarder." And so she rang me up and she said, "Hey, ring this girl." And I rang her. I rang this English guy, and all of a sudden I'm in Dubai, and I'm starting up a business in Dubai. And the funny thing was that that first girlfriend, she was cabin crew with Emirates, and she lived in a building called Al Gadir. Now, when I met my wife lived in that exact same building. So it was like law of attraction. The first room, I was definitely in the wrong room. It wasn't the right relationship for me. And then once I found the other apartment, I was definitely in the right relationship. Right. So quite funny just how it all works when you look back and all the dots connect.
Yeah. What was this? You mentioned earlier a business that failed. Is this the business in Dubai?
I had a business coming into Dubai, and I had a business and we were manufacturing clothing. We had a brand. And the brand, we had 50 retail outlets across our country stocking our gear. We also made best-selling movies. So it's like imagine like a Billabong or a Rip Curl or a Volcom. We had our own clothing brand. And I had that coming into Dubai. And then things went south with me and my business partner, and I ended up with no business, no money, and no job after I'd been living in Dubai. And that's when I really started to take my life in a different direction. And that year was a real bad year because I really got to the bottom of the barrel, and I'd lost my company, I'd lost my money, and the only job I could get at that stage, because I was uneducated and I'd walked away from a family business, was I was a traffic controller. I was holding a stop slow sign on the side of the street, controlling traffic. The worst job you can do in the world, the most brain-numbing job. And it was around about July, and I just looked up to the sky. You know, when it's time to talk to God, you look up to the sky and you go, what the fuck is going on down here? Is this all I'm here for? Come on, I've got to be made for something else. And I made a decision that I'd have to reinvent myself, because at 28, I knew that I wasn't educated. Everybody wanted certificates at that stage. And I thought to myself, I've got to turn my life around. And that experience, when I lived in Dubai and I saw my ex-girlfriend's lifestyle, I said, you know what? I want that. I want to get out of the country. I want to reinvent myself, and I want to become something new. I didn't know what it was, but I just had this desire to get away from it all, to get away from my group of friends. They were lovely guys, super successful, but they had what they wanted, but I still hadn't figured out what I needed for the journey. And when I got to Dubai for the third time, that's when I went, this is the place for me. And it all started to come together. But there was huge amounts of personal development. I kind of isolated myself for a good 4 years. I read more than 1,000 books, attended like courses, studies, certifications, leadership. And that's when life started to get really, really good.
Yeah. Were you really into clothing? Was that the direction? Were you happy when you were in clothing?
Well, when I was an Australian champion athlete and 3-time state champion athlete, I'd even competed at X Games. You know, these people like Shaun White who compete at X Games, I'd compete at X Games. And so I was always wearing other people's clothing. And my brother was like, why are we wearing other people's clothing? Why don't we start our own brand? We've got our own following, and let's make what we like. Instead of making this mass-produced stuff, let's make some stuff for our core market.
And that's how all the best brands grow, right there.
People loved it. And so when we got into the industry, and I think this happens to a lot of business people, you know, your family say, that's never going to work. Your friends say, that's never going to work. We just didn't listen to the naysayers. And we said, we're going to do what we want to do. Fuck you all. And then we built this epic brand. And even to today, the business hasn't operated for about 10 years. People still send me messages. I'm still wearing your clothes. And we haven't produced for 10 years. And they're still in perfect condition, because we're like, we want great quality stuff. We want it to last forever. People send me photos of stickers on the back of people's cars, and they're like, I'm in the traffic, and people have still got this brand around the country.
Yeah.
And so it was something that we were super proud of. I loved it because when I put a shirt on, it was my design. When I put a pair of shorts on, it was my design. When I had my backpack on, it was my design. When I had my hat on, it was my design. And our community loved it, because what we did was we started to sponsor writers, and then we would get tattoo artists, we'd get members of our community to make designs for us, and then we'd profit share with them. So everybody was winning off the back of this brand, and it really started to fuel this new movement where the people wearing our clothing, we started a production company where we made movies. So we started to make our own movies and showcase our products and promote our riders. And all of our riders were Australian and world champion athletes. So we were quickly known for who we were in our brand, but also for putting back into the community. And that's what made the business successful, because it was a very communal business.
Right. So it sounds like you had a lot of success with that. I mean, if you still got people 10 years later that are still reaching out and they're still wearing the clothes. I mean, I don't want to say it is perennial because it's clothes, but it's certainly long lasting. You had said that you didn't know what you wanted to do. Why not go back to that?
Can never go backwards. Have you ever seen the Australian coat of arms? See, this is ingrained into Australians, whether they understand it or not. Our Australian coat of arms has a kangaroo on one side and an emu on the other. Now, the interesting thing about these two animals is these animals can't move backwards. A kangaroo can't step backwards. An emu can't step backwards. So what's ingrained to an Australian is this coat of arms, and it's a symbol of a nation moving forward. And that's burned into my brain. I don't go backwards. However, what I do believe in is customers for life. And I have customers who used to borrow money from us at our family pawnbroking business, who started to buy our clothing, and who now purchase products and services from me in my coaching and consulting business. So albeit I'm not selling clothing anymore, my customers have followed me. And that's my motto. And I say to my clients, it's customers for life. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you've got that relationship, they will follow you. And so today it's more profitable than it ever was because I'm selling something that I'm even more passionate about.
I mean, that you'd be selling them on you. Am I right? You've sold them on you from the very beginning, and the product, the shirts, the gear was just a byproduct of that, I guess, in a sense. Am I right?
Well, the relationship is the most important thing. In business, it's the relationship. And if there's no relationship, people aren't going to buy from you. And as a family, when we owned a pawnbroking business, it's a business where it's very easy to look down at other people because they're borrowing money. But we treated them like we wanted to be treated. You know, there's a golden rule and it says, do unto others as you want others to do unto you. We treated them like every other person we knew, with respect, with dignity, with care. And they borrowed money from us. And we become successful. And if we wanted to stay successful, we had to treat them like millionaires. And we did. We were even invited to our customers' christenings, their weddings. Now, this is a pawnbroking business. You've got the show in America, Pawn Stars. That's what we were like in our area. Everybody knew who we were. Imagine saying, hey, you're walking down the street and people say, hey, Daniel. And my friends were like, who's that? I'm like, oh, that's somebody who borrows money from me. And they're like, they actually say hello to you on the street. I'm like, they love us. Because they've become our friends. And then we go to their weddings. And so again, we're very communal based, and our family is a big family. My dad's one of 12 children, and they've occupied a key area in Sydney for a very long time. One of the companies that my family own, they employ 500 people in the area. So we've got a great reputation across our entire name, and our name's really good. So when people say, if you're going to do business with the Tolsons, they're going to take care of you. And so that's our family reputation. And it's a big family. I've got 180-something living relatives just in this area.
Yeah, I wish I had a reputation like that. Maybe friends of mine would start paying me back. Holy shit.
Well, that's the challenge in business. I think Elon Musk said once, there's a quote going around Instagram, so we don't know how true it is. But he's, why don't you throw a baby shower for when your friends start a business?
Right.
And that's what we really need. We need that back in business. Our friends should buy from us, but our friends don't buy from us. And that's something we've got to change in our culture.
That to me personally, I know exactly. I've seen the meme. That is one of those things. I could not agree with you more. And I'm not saying that baby showers, that we should stop baby showers, because there's a great communal purpose to something like that. What is the purpose of a baby shower? Somebody who you love is about to go through a major cost and a major lifestyle change. They're bringing a new life into the world. You and I, we're both fathers. We both understand what that's about. And they don't usually do baby showers on the second baby, right? It's just the first one. The second one they don't care about so much, right?
The first one's made out of porcelain. The second one's made out of clay. You can't break it.
Right. So, so we do that, and when you're expecting, congratulations, this is going to be great. If there's anything you need, I'm here, but please don't call. But when you're starting a business, what's the first thing you tell your parent? You start with your parents. You tell your spouse. You tell the people that are closest to you. More times than not, and of course this is subjective to, I'm generalizing, but more often than not, you're met with negativity, and you can argue that it might be fear, that it's based out of love.
But I guess. Love you. I'm only saying this because I love you.
I'm worried about you.
I only want the best for you.
I don't want you to fail.
Don't lose your money. You've worked hard.
Right. You get all of this, and it's just more of a reason for you to not go through with a dream that you have, and to settle on whatever. Go back to the job. You've got a great job. You're making. What, didn't you get a promotion? You're at $55,000 a year. You went to a theme park last year. Settle for the mediocrity is what everybody pushes onto you, and it's sickening that there's not. I will praise a awful business idea if there's somebody that comes. If I have a friend, loved one, somebody down the street who has this, they're convinced this is going to be a great business idea. They're going to they're going to resell event tickets. They're going to scalp tickets, but they're going to do it online. Something crazy. I'm praising you for it. It sounds great. I hope you fail. Really, I hope if you do. I don't hope you fail, but if you do fail, you're gonna learn, and you're gonna go to the next thing. You're statistically you're gonna fail. Statistically, everybody fails. I mean, to think that somebody's gonna come up with a business idea and get it just like that, and they're on the path to Amazon. I mean, it's unrealistic. But man, what is the deal with all of the negativity?
One of the things we talk about in goal setting is the first rule is never tell people your goals.
Right. As
soon as you tell people your goals, the first thing you're going to be met with is resistance and criticism. And it has nothing to do with you. It's all about the other person. Right. And in our society in Australia, we call it the tall poppy syndrome. People hate people who are succeeding. And as soon as somebody starts to succeed, they want to chop them off at the head. And so people don't really want you to succeed, because all of a sudden, if you're driving a bigger car than mine, I'm going to feel insignificant. If you move out of the neighborhood and you get a bigger house, I'm going to feel insignificant. If you start making bank and cash and checks, you're going to be having better things than me. And I don't really, truly want that for you, because it'll make me have to look at myself. But I don't want to look at myself. And so all of life for most people is just survival. You know, the human experience can be boiled down to three things. Are you ready for it? Feeding, fighting, and fucking. The three.
You got to bring the brand back, because that's I'll buy that t-shirt.
The first thing is you got to eat. I'm a fucking beast. I want to slaughter a cow. I want to kill a pig. I want to rip a chicken's head off. I got to eat. All of us have got to eat. Second thing, we got to fight. We got to fight for our survival. You know, the American budget for the military is like $750 billion. And you've got to fight for your survival. You've got to protect yourself. Every day you've got to survive. You've got to survive by killing your competition. Right. You've got to survive by getting attention. And then the third thing is we've got to fuck. The only way that we can continue this human experience is to reproduce. And that's the basic of the human experience. It's feeding, fighting, and fucking.
It's basically my weekend. Yeah.
And I like all three. So, you know, a lot of people don't have the fight in them anymore. And we're coming into a time of this world where people's level of desire is at an all-time low. So when I grew up on the back of what was called the lay-by era. Now, if I wanted something, I had to work hard in advance. I'd have to save my dollars, and then I could buy what I wanted. And if there was something that I really liked, I remember there was a transformer, and I wanted this transformer. And I used to go to the toy shop, and I'd put 50 cents down on that every single week until I could take it. However, 35 years later, I still own that transformer. I still own it because I had to work so hard. I had to pay the price in advance to get what I wanted. And that's desire. But today, the way the financial institutions are set up is we don't have to pay the price in advance. We just have to pay it back for the rest of our life. So when we get something, it's so easy come, easy go. We don't have to wait. It's instant gratification. Yes, people want things now, but people are also ignorant. They don't realize that if you just get whatever you want now, there's no desire. You got to wait. One of my clients, he's a multimillionaire, and he said, Daniel, I use this app called Grindr, and he said it's ruined the gay dating scene. He said, I can type in a message on this Grindr thing. Somebody can walk into my house. I can put my pants down. Job's done. They walk out. And I said, okay, well, good for you. And he says, but it's ruined the dating scene. He said, because when you go out now, people don't know how to flirt. They don't know how to chase. There's no thrill of the chase anymore. It's just the serotonin hit. You get the end goal, but there's no dopamine. There's no adrenaline. And so this is how the world is now. You can have what you want. You can have afterpay. You can take a personal loan. And so people's level of desire is at an all-time low. People don't want it enough. And when you and I go through these experiences like being diagnosed with dyslexia or linear sequential learning disability, we've had to fight our whole life just to do those basic things that come so easy for everybody else. So we develop this resiliency. We develop this burning desire. And see, people want it, but they can't get it off the shelf. They can't get desire in a pill. They can't get it out of a book. It's only through going through those hard times of life that we develop it. So we're missing desire, but we need it today. We need it to get to that next level.
It's the toughest thing. You're 100% right. It's a lack of desire that is in a predominant percentage of people that are out there. And when you combine that lack of desire and you have that small segment of people who still have that desire, they still have to overcome the negativity of everyone that's around them. So the entry point to start your own business, I mean, it's small. You have to have that resiliency. I'm happy. I'm not sure if this is something that you would agree with or go along with, but I mean, I'm happy I had an awful upbringing through school. I can't be any more thrilled that I struggled as hard as I did all through school and struggled and was told all these nasty things about me and my intelligence growing up, so that I was conditioned in a way so that I didn't think that I could do anything. I can't go to college. I'm not a college kid. I'm not smart enough for that. I'm not even smart enough to finish high school. So, and I'm not going to amount to anything. I remember when I was 17 years old, I was arrested at a house party, and I got charged. I had a couple charges. They threw a bunch of charges at me, and I remember I had to go see the prosecutor in the police station in this city, and I had to be there with a parent. So my father was there. And I remember sitting in a chair and staring at this prosecutor, who was a much older woman, very, very wrinkly. And I was looking at her, but I remember, I don't think she ever gave me eye contact. She just looked at my father. So I was basically invisible, right? And I remember her looking my father dead in the face and telling him, I don't even know how I would digest this, but he told him flat out, your son is going to be in and out of here for the rest of his life. He'll never make anything out of his life. This is what you need to get used to. And my father didn't say anything. And that was worse than, to me at that moment, that was worse than any jail sentence that they could have put on me. Because at that point, I remember just staring at her lips just the whole time. She had something dangling from her lip. It was disgusting. But I stared at her lips, and that was that. And it wasn't that I left there at 17 and I thought I'm going to turn my life around. No, I continued to, I validated her statements for years after that. But eventually I came to this point where I realized that my life is not defined by the dingleberry lip lady when I was 17. I'm in control of this. I can change whenever I want to change. But I don't know if I would have been there if I went through high school, and got B's and did fairly well and, built up some sort of confidence, some sort of, fictional confidence in myself that I'll be fine. I'm smart. I'm going to do great. It was that having your back against the wall, having my back against the wall and not thinking that I had any other options, and I needed to be resilient against the negativity because I don't have any other options. It's either burn the fucking boats or live a life of mediocrity. And it's so hard for some people because everybody's experience is unique, right? And what if you didn't have that back against the wall sort of feel? What if you didn't have that background but you have this dream, but you're facing all this negativity and these roadblocks and these walls, but you want to get there. And that's what you I mean, that is, am I wrong in saying that that's what you really specialize in is breaking through that these days?
Through. Yep. So in Taiwan, we have what's called a strawberry generation. And if you've ever touched a strawberry, you touch it once and it bruises. Right. And the community here today, they've had such good times with their parents that their parents have just bankrolled everything. Now they get into their 40s and they get their first rejection, they get their first failure. And they're literally throwing themselves off the buildings because they can't deal with failure.
Right.
And even the school system, if you look at the school system in Australia right now, they're trying to remove rankings. So what I mean by that, everybody's a winner. Everybody gets a trophy for just entering the competition. So they're trying to remove first, second, or third. But if we go back to the human experience, feeding, fighting, and fucking, it's fighting. In business, you either come first and you win and you get paid, or you come second and you miss out. That's it. And so people start business and they're thinking, why don't we get rewarded for coming second? There's no payment for coming second. If the customer buys from your competitor eats, you starve. And they've got to relearn this at 40, but it's tough. So we should never pray or beg for an easy life, because these characteristics of resiliency, of self-starting, of adapting, adjusting, responding, we only learn this through the crucifix of fire. And people who have been burned and crucified at the stake at a young age and had setbacks, they always end up becoming more successful because they develop that resiliency. They're like, you know what? That didn't break me. This ain't going to break me. I've been through worse. I've had worse. I've been called worse. I've been in the courtroom. I've had that dressing down before. And I laughed at old dangly lips over there. And I'm still crushing it. And so these things lay solid foundations for your personal psychology and your emotional intelligence. And it's really, the self-regulation is so important. There's 4 basic fears. And they're all learned. These are all learned. The first basic one is the fear of being taken advantage of. So imagine if you've never, ever overcome this fear of being taken advantage of. Now you start a business. Now you've got to employ people. Now, I remember my folks, when they had their business, they're like, we're not going to hire people. People take advantage of you. They're going to take your trade secrets and they're going to run away and they're going to start competition. Now, if you haven't mastered that fear, you're never going to delegate. You're never going to build an effective team. The second one is the fear of rejection. Now, you're going to be rejected 99.99% of the times in business, but you can't take it personally. McDonald's doesn't shut its shutters when I drive past on the freeway and I say, I ain't drinking that. KFC doesn't get upset when I drive past 100 times because they know they're probably going to catch me on the 101st time. And so they deal with rejection. Most people can't deal with rejection. And they say, oh, I'm not a salesperson, I'm a service person. Fuck that. You're in sales. It's sales. You're still servicing people. It's sales. But if you can't handle rejection, you can't have a business. The third thing is people fear losing their stability. And this is where they get stuck in the comfort zone. They go, you know what, I've only been doing this job for 10 years and it's not what I want to do. It's not bad. It's not what I want to do. I'd prefer to do something else like paint or play guitar. But if I just hack it out for another 20 or 30 years, I can retire. And so they're so afraid of losing their stability that they never launch their dreams. And then the fourth one we've got to handle is the fear of making a mistake. People are so afraid to try and fail, but it's through failure, and it's that wisdom that you shared before, is you're better off to fail because that's where you get the super valuable learnings. People who just succeed, end up developing imposter syndrome, and they go, how the hell did I get here? I don't even know what I did. I just got lucky. And then they feel like an imposter, and then they start to sabotage their own success. So we've got to learn to deal with those 4 key fears if we want to succeed.
Right.
But it only comes from living a tough life. It doesn't come from getting everything easy.
And to me, the one thing that resonates of what you said the most with me is the fear of failure. That's the biggest thing with me. I had, as you were saying that, I remembered a couple years ago. I think it was like 2018. Or 2017. I started the year off. My resolution was to fail at something every month, to just find something to fail at. Because and the purpose of that, why would I want to fail? Why would I intentionally seek after failure? Well, I might not fail if it's something I'm going to fail at, it's something I'm obviously not good at. It's maybe something I've never done before. And I've never done it before. I may not be good at it. It may be outside of my wheelhouse and I may fail at it. But here's what's going to happen. On the day of that next month, I'm either going to abandon that idea. Okay, that didn't work out. And that was a waste of time. I'm going to move on to something else now. Or I'm going to say, you know what? I failed, but I almost didn't. And I'm going to go back to that. And then I'm going to learn how to succeed in that. And then I need to decide whether or not this is something I just did as a hobby or if this is something I want to continue in doing. But the idea is overcoming that fear of failure, that the failure itself is not bad. And the biggest thing to do, in my opinion, has always been to just look at what the absolute worst case scenario is. Because 99.9% of the time, that worst case scenario, when you really logically and rationally sit down and think about, okay, well, if I am fucking completely wrong in this idea, if I put together a poor plan, if I completely just botch this entire thing, legitimately, what will happen? Where will I be? Will I just lose money? Am I going to lose reputation? Who am I going to lose reputation with? Does that really matter to me moving forward? And oftentimes it doesn't. None of this stuff matters. Maybe you lose a couple $100, maybe you lose a couple thousand, whatever the case is. It's never as bad as what we make it out to be. And oftentimes we don't make it out to be anything. We just don't want to fail because what are people going to think? They're not going to think of fucking anything. Your friends and family, they didn't think it was a good idea, most likely to begin with. So what are they going to think? Oh, well, I told you so, and then just do it again.
100%. This is a fear of ego death, and
right.
It feels like you're dying, and so the organism, like we say before, that'll be my next shirt: feeding, fighting, and fucking, is is we want survival. The organism, the human body, is just designed to survive. And how do you survive? You avoid death. That's
right.
how you do it. You avoid death. That's how you live. But that's not a good way to live. And people are so trying to stay alive that they don't even live because it's a protective mechanism. So they feel that if they fail, they're dying, and they want to go into that self-preservation mode. But as we know, we've got to adapt, adjust, and respond. The survival as species is not based on the smartest. It's the most adaptable to change. And it's the person who can adapt to change and try many different things is the person who's going to ultimately succeed. See, in business model reinvention, which I do with my clients, is there's a degree between the amount of different things that you try and the amount of and the speed at which you'll succeed. So most people go, I want to try one thing. If you try one thing, nothing's going to change. Like, you got a 50-50 shot, but most likely it's not going to work. It's these people who are willing to try 10, 50, 60, 70, 80 different things that eventually succeed. Right. And in today's market, you're going to have to reinvent your business model, and you're going to have to make at least 40 to 50 improvements before you start to see a change. But you're not going to know which one it works because the market moves so fast. So you've got to keep adapting, adjusting, and responding. And that's how you survive in today's market. But it's not survival at the basic level. See, there's three types of motivations, and this is what I talk to my clients about. There's biological motivation, there's extrinsic motivation, and then there's intrinsic motivation. So for our friends who are paying attention, anybody who tells you they're motivated, believe them, they're motivated at the most basic level. The most basic level is biological. It's survival, food, shelter, water. And so everybody's motivated. Then you move, once you've secured that basic one, then you can move to extrinsic. Extrinsic thing is houses, cars, watches, money. But what you soon realize is that those things don't have a lot of joy. And if I buy a brand new car today, for the next 6 months, nobody's eating McDonald's, KFC, and my mates better not fart in the car because it's going to lose that new car smell. But after 6 months, that new car smell has gone and it's just any other car. And then a new model comes out and what do you say to yourself? Shit, I should have waited for the new model. So that loses its excitement after a while. But the third level of motivation is where all entrepreneurs should reside. And it's called intrinsic motivation. And it's building a business around your unique characteristics. It's building businesses around what drives and motivates you. So for me, I love knowledge, and I have to do a business where I can acquire knowledge. And my business is all about the acquisition of knowledge. So every day I meet people like yourself, I'm reading books, I'm taking courses, and I feel alive because I'm learning. But not all jobs give me that. When I was a lollipop man, there was nothing to learn. I couldn't learn. The second thing is for me that drives me is I'm very resourceful. I want a return on my investment of time, my energy, my knowledge. I want to get a return on all of that. And so with my business, I can resell my knowledge. I can resell my life experiences. And I love that. Thirdly, I'm objective and I get shit done. So for me, I don't want to stop and smell the roses. I don't care what the roses smell like. I want to get the job done because I know if I can complete it, I'm going to feel like I've got to win. So as I build my business, it's not a stop and smell the roses business. It's get shit done. And I get that done. Also, for me, I'm driven by a driving force called commanding. I want to be in charge of my life. I want to be in charge of the direction of my life. I'm not a good team player. That's why I'm a coach and a consultant. You got the boys on the field. They're the team, but the coach always sits off the side. The coach is solitary. The coach is like the bald eagle who flies around at 40,000 feet and looks for all the opportunities and threats, but he's up there by himself and he loves it. And so for me, that's my role. That's what excites me. I work with many different teams, but I'm sitting out here looking down 40,000 feet, organizing the players. Now, when I do that every day, I feel alive. I feel alive. And now I can deal with the obstacles because I say, hey, this is just a temporary setback. I'm still doing what I love. I can deal with that failure. I can deal with that failure. I can deal with that failure because every day I'm doing what I love and I've got the energy. But if you're not aligned intrinsically with anything that you're doing, you won't have the energy. You'll always fly under the radar. You'll always just do enough, what do they call it, a job just above broke. You'll just do whatever's required just to keep the job. But that ain't living, that's surviving. We're going to live. We're going to come to life. And that's the important part of anybody who wants to build a business or have a successful career. Build it around your unique personality style.
Right. And that's the big game changer right there. So let me ask you, as a business coach, because you're a business coach, that's the title. As a business coach, I mean, so you help business owners overcome whatever is blocking them from succeeding to the next level. I mean, is that sums it up?
Fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs. All business people have to break through fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs. We talked about those fears before. It's the fear of being taken advantage of. It's the fear of rejection. It's the fear of losing our stability. It's the fear of making a mistake. If they can't get past that, they'll never grow a business. They'll be successful at being a solopreneur or self-employed, but they'll never build a business. You've also got your doubts. And so what happens is people say, I don't think I can do it. Maybe I'm a little bit too old. Maybe I don't know enough yet. Maybe I don't have the resources to succeed. And so they've got to break through that. If they don't break through that, they won't try, they won't attempt new things. And then the final one is the limiting beliefs. The beliefs are what hold us back. The biggest enemy is the enemy within. And 80% of my work is getting people just to reinvent themselves. It's changing the basis of the personality. That personality has got them to where they are today. Now, when I say has got them to where they are today, I'm talking people who are doing 50 million, 100 million, even 5 billion a year. I'm working with people who've got 5 billion in revenues. But to get to that next level, they've got to reinvent themselves because our business is a reflection of us. And the fish rots from the head down. So if you're leading a business, the fish rots from the head down and you need to have a checkup from the neck up. So we get in there, we change the mindset, and then they start to have this explosive growth. I've got mortgage brokers growing at 50% per annum. I've got a family business, so I've helped to get from 45 million to 110 million. And it all came with the leader changing their mindset. Yes, they worked hard. Yes, they had a lot of other advice, but they had to reinvent themselves first. So that's my specialization.
That's the biggest thing. And it's the reinventing. The reinventing is a huge thing. Because even if you do the way that I feel about it, I started off doing freelance insurance adjusting and I did very well. I'm making 6 figures. But I started my new business that was going to scale way more than that. And I thought, well, I'm successful in this. Of course, I'm going to be successful in this brand new endeavor, but it's just not the case. You have to reinvent. You have to think differently. I mean, God bless you if your first idea was multi-million-dollar idea, but that's not necessarily the case. And it's that reinventing yourself in order for you to catapult yourself forward. If you do feel like you're stuck, let me ask you. So you work with a lot of multimillionaires, I'm guessing?
100%.
Have you worked with people and you were there at the crossover once they hit $1 million and so on?
Absolutely. I say to them, if you're a bad driver and you buy a Ferrari, you can still be a bad driver with a Ferrari. So let's get the driver sorted out. And I see them cross from, some people, I've got a client in Australia now, their first jobs they were doing for $5,000 a job. And then they had to update. And one of the biggest things was a feeling of guilt. Now, a lot of business people in America, they go and see psychologists because they feel so guilty about what they're achieving. They get all this money and they start to feel guilty. So he felt guilty at $5,000. And I said, well, if you feel guilty at $5,000, you're never going to get to 50. So he had to learn to deal with the guilt. Now he's at 50,000. Now he wants to get to the next level. Starts doing jobs for 150,000. Gets to the next level, doing jobs for 250,000. Today, their average job is $500,000 and they feel great about doing it. And they say no to gigs at $250,000. So I've seen them to go from 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 figures. And it always comes first with that change of mindset because they have to lead differently. They have to sell differently. They have to get out of their comfort zone. They start to have to work with bigger organizations. I remember one of my clients here, he's doing little backyard jobs and now he's doing jobs on commercial scales, but he's a totally different person. You wouldn't recognize him today because he's changed so much.
Broader mindset.
So broad.
We're gonna have to freaking talk about this. Daniel, man, listen, where can people reach out to you? If we've got some people here that want to take that next step, where can they reach out to you? How can they learn a little bit more about you?
First thing, write to me personally. In the Bible, it says, knock and the door will open. Write to me personally. Say hello, Daniel@DanielTolson.com. I'm always up for a chat to learn more about other people. And then if you're a little bit shy and you want to start in my Facebook group, come over and hang out on Facebook. I've got a group called Accelerate and Multiply, and I often share resources and ideas and insights into my trainings. Yesterday, I was hypnotizing a group of 20 business people, and I shared the group hypnotizing them. That's the fastest way to wire the mind. I hypnotize groups of up to 1,300 people at a time.
Really?
And so what I do is I take these segments of my trainings and I put them in the group for people just to experience and enjoy so they can start to work on themselves. Even if they've got no budget, the videos are free and they can just enjoy coming up to speed. And I remember a guy reached out to me when he was 16. He said, dude, he goes, what you do is fucking epic. He's like, I want to work with you, but I got no money. I said, jump on a call. He got onto a call. He goes, man, I love you. He goes, I want you to be my mentor. He said, when I'm making bank, I'm going to come and work with you. 3 years later, he started coming and work with me and he started to do $100,000 a month. And then he built his 7-figure business and he refers all of his business partners to me. And He had no money. And I said, man, I believe in what you're doing. He was an electrician. And he said, Daniel, I don't want to crawl around in roofs with spiders in there. I don't want to crawl under the house with all the mice and the snakes. He goes, I want to have a digital business. And I helped him build it. So come and learn what I'm doing.
That is amazing. From electrician to building a digital business at 7 figures a year. That's awesome. Guys, go check it out. And I'm going to join that Facebook group too. I want to see a part of this. I want to see what the hypto is all about here. So guys, Daniel@DanielTolson.com. Shoot him an email, guys. Accelerate and Multiply.
That's the
Facebook
one,
group.
And Multiply.
Check it out, guys. Daniel, awesome having you, man. Hope to have you again, man.
See you soon. We'll do it again.
Take care, brother.